test it out. All right, mic check, 1, 2, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm guessing there's, oh, okay, you're testing it too. Did you hear that, John? Or? Okay. 10, I'll wait for Derek. Whenever you're ready, or is that the other camera sound good? Is it?
Yeah, I think so. Don't use this camera ever. So I'm like, I think it sounds good. I can hear you.
Gotcha.
It's just not as loud as I am used to. Yes, I can hear it.
Okay. Check, 1, 2.
He does not come back into the game until there's less than 3 minutes to play. He was on the bench for 9 minutes.
I texted Michael, asked him about that.
Oh, fun stuff.
Yes.
Chip,
Nice.
you sound great.
It sound good? Okay, cool.
That's been playing well, was playing hard. Why are you taking him out and sit here for 9 minutes?
Unless you have like more fouls.
Yeah, 2. 9.
start some football here. All right, are we good? Everybody good? All right, I just want to start off, make a couple comments. We just lost this past week Pat Costello, who's been here with us as part of the USF athletics family since 2004. Pat's been our technology and systems analyst here in the athletic department. I had the opportunity to work with him and be around him for these last 2 years, and really anything in the building dealing with technology, any issues we had, he was always there to really help us, and I know was a big asset, and everybody that knows Pat is thinking about his family during this time. So just wanted to start off with that, and then also just really say we're excited. This time of year, spring ball is always exciting. It's a new year. We're getting ready to finish. Tomorrow will be the completion of our 7th week of winter workouts, and that's really kind of, as a coach, you kind of categorize your season really into 4 different phases. You have your winter workout period, which is usually that 7-week period starting from January until spring ball starts. And then you have your spring practice, which is, over about a 6-week period. And then you have your summer workouts, which is very important, 6-week, it's 12 weeks, over 13 weeks there in the summer. And then you have your season. And so we're about to finish really that first step there with winter workouts, and really pleased with how that's gone. We just completed our 5th and final mat drill this morning, and great intensity, great competition. Our head strength coach, AJ Artis, he and his staff do an excellent job. And this is actually Coach Artis's first true off season with our team, because he actually arrived here last year about this same time. It was a couple days, I think it was actually the day before spring practice started, is when AJ got here last year. So this really is his first off season with our players, and he and his staff have done an excellent job. One thing that we've done a little bit different this year is each day our strength staff and football staff, whenever we've been around the guys, we've given each player a grit score. So we talk about really the next step for our team, and kind of the evolution since I've been here over the last 2 years is really being able to get a team that has the grit to be able to finish when things get tough. And, we were awfully close in a lot of games last year, and I think that's really the next step for us. So after every workout, our strength staff would assign each player. We have 112 players on the roster this spring, which I think is an advantage for us. We're allowed to have 120 players each year. Typically in the spring, you would be somewhere around 90 to 100 players, and we have 112 of our 120. So all but 8 players are here with us, starting there in January all the way through. So that's a big advantage. But each day, our strength staff would give our guys, assign them a grit score between 0 and 4. 4 being the highest, that's championship level effort and leadership above and beyond what is asked, and work ethic, intensity, and all those things. A 3 is someone that does more than's required, and that's a winning effort, winning performance of work and leadership. 2 is someone that would do maybe just exactly what is asked, nothing more, nothing less. A 1 would be somebody that comes in kind of a slow starter, low energy, not the effort, not the finish. And then 0 is someone that just quits and pulls out and is not able to finish at all. So the great thing about that, each day we work out in the morning, so each day by noon, the daily rankings 1 through 112 go out to every player on the team. So they can see, they pull it up right there and they see, okay, I got a 3 today, or I got a 2. Why did I get a 1? And you also see what everybody else on the team got, so just from a personal accountability. And then what allows them the next day, they come in and see Coach Artis or Coach Diaz, and they say, well, why did I get a 2 yesterday? I thought I did pretty good. So, well, actually, I saw this yesterday. You actually put your hands on your hips, and we don't put our hands on our hips when we get tired. We stand up straight. So that has been very unique. That's something that we really haven't done before. But what's been awesome about that is, it's one thing to go out and have a good day, right, and maybe a good week. But when you talk about 7 weeks, there's 35 workout days, because we work 5 days a week during the off season. So 35 workout days. So through 33 of the 35, I got the rankings today. We'd get it weekly, and I just wanted to really recognize those guys kind of for a great off season, because some of these guys are guys that have made a lot of progress since I've been here, and really the work ethic. But number one was Will Jones. Now, that's really impressive. Here's a young man coming off an ACL. You know, man, that really hurt last year. The whole team hurt for Will. It was the Thursday before the first game. We're in shorts doing the final 5 minutes, and he tears his ACL just running, chasing the ball, and missed the entire year. And now he's come back from that. And how about that? Number 1 out of 112. It's been incredible. He's primed for a great year. Number 2, Demarais Bellamy. Really impressive to see him. Really always knew he had the talent, but really work hard. Number 3, Brad Cecil. Number 4, Rashawn Yates. This has been a really big one. You know, Yates is probably one of the top guys that's made a big change in his just kind of overall discipline habits off the field, and that's carried over. He's been one of the most outstanding workers we've had, and that's a really good sign at an important position. Number 5, Vincent Davis. Number 6, Darian Grant, also coming off an ACL injury. Number 7, Demetrius Harris, one of our leaders. Number 8, Mekhi LaPointe, another one of our leaders. Number 9, Chris Carter. And number 10, Brian Norris. Good to see both of those guys also. One thing that really stands out as I look at that is 6 of our top 8 are super seniors. We have 12 super seniors. So these are 12 guys that, you know, without COVID, they would be done, and they chose to come back. And 6 of those 12 are in the top 8. And all 12 of those are in our top 25. Now, again, it's very early in the process. Each year's a new year. But as coaches, you always kind of look for signs of progress and signs of what's to come. And what I know from my experience, the best teams that I've been a part of, the seniors were your hardest workers. The seniors were your leaders. And this is the first time since I've been here that I have truly felt that our seniors are leading from the front. And, you know, that group's been through a lot. They've been through, you know, some of them got recruited by one coach, played for one coach, and then I got here 2 years ago, and every one of those guys had a decision to make, chose to come back, and they're definitely leading with a purpose. I think that's a great sign. Also want to recognize maybe 3 of the guys. We had 21 new players show up in January. That group has really done a good job of jumping in and, you know, getting in line. I think our returning players have done a great job of welcoming them. That was one thing I was interested in kind of watching, because we have some really talented transfers coming in from different places that are older guys. We got a lot of returners and, you know, trying to figure out the depth chart and all those things. And, man, those guys, our team has welcomed them with open arms. It's been fun to see that already. But really the top 3 of the newcomers have been Ray Thornton, a safety, DJ Gordon, the linebacker, and then this is really impressive, true freshman quarterback Byron Brown. He's been outstanding as well. Those 3 have all been in the top 20 of our 112, so that's a really good sign. So, you know, obviously a lot of work to do. You're not going to, you know, completely be done this early, but I think there's been some really good signs. There's a maturity that I really haven't seen. There's leadership that I haven't seen since I've been here. And then also just physically, we look different. And hopefully y'all have a day or 2 where y'all are able to come out and watch the first part of practice. I think you're going to notice a difference just in the length, the size, you know, the bodies. I think of a guy like Jimmy Horn. Jimmy's added about 12 pounds from where he was last year. He looks really good. He's worked extremely hard. He's a guy that's been in the top 25 as well. So, you know, I think spring practice, it's always an important part of the process. It's a big time for development, teaching, learning, fundamentals. You're not getting ready to play a game, so you can really take time to teach the fundamentals and the basics. I think this spring is probably even more important for a couple factors. One factor being that we have 2 new coordinators, right? Coach Shoup with our defense and Coach Trickett, who you are going to get an opportunity to hear from here in a minute. They've done an outstanding job of jumping in with our guys, and we've been able to have some meetings during the off-season weeks, which is what we've been in. You're allowed 2 hours of your 8 required hours to have meetings and walkthroughs, and so for these last 3 weeks, we've used those 2 hours. We've had a 45-minute position meeting with a 15-minute walkthrough after the match. twice a week for the last 3 weeks. So that way, when we start on Tuesday, we're not starting from scratch on our install and all that. But and then also with the 21 new guys, many of those that we're going to be counting on to be in our 2 deep and be able to help us. So it's going to be an exciting spring. I'm sure beginning of the year, I'm sure one of the questions, I've already got a question asking about the quarterback situation and all that. So I know, Will, you're going to ask for the spring depth chart, so I brought it for you. All right. There it is right there. All right, everybody take a good picture. That's the spring depth chart. All right, that's right there for you, Joey. All right, I put a lot of work into that. All right, and no, it sends the message that we want to send to our guys. Hey, every year is a new year, right? And you got to start over, right? Last year's touchdowns aren't going to win this year's games, right? So it's all about how you do each and every day that we step out there. And again, it's a new team. There's new players. There's guys that were here last year that are not here. There's new guys that are here. So how do we know who the best guys are? We haven't had one practice with this year's team, right? And we're about to do that. So, and I think that's really how it should be each and every year. You got to earn it all over again. So there's going to be, I think the word for this spring is going to be competition. And, what I've seen guys like Dwayne Boyles and Antonio Greer have the best 7 weeks since I've been here. They've been outstanding, right? And part of it's maturity and leadership, but they also know there's competition now that maybe there hasn't been in the past, right? And so competition, it really pushes guys to the top. And so I'm really looking forward to watching this group compete this spring, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And then maybe the last 2 things that I would say before I open up for questions. I think we announced our spring game is going to be Saturday, April the 9th at 6 p.m. We're going to move it to the evening. And one thing I'm excited about, we're going to put out a little bit more information a little bit later, but let y'all get it first here. But we're going to have, at halftime of the spring game, we're going to have a USF football alumni flag football game. And so we're B.J. Daniels is right now making some calls and reaching out to a lot of our football alumni to try to get the team set, and I think it'll be an awesome deal. We'll play one half of our spring game, then our players will step to the side on the sidelines and stand out there and watch these guys. So I'm saying that right now to give all those guys about a 6-week head start. Some of them need to start running again and working out. So that's a warning there for them. But looking forward to that. It'll be a great, this year our spring game, because of how many players we have here with 112 guys being here, what our plan is right now, and unless something changes here over the next couple of weeks, is to really kind of divide out the team and have a draft and divide out the team and not just do 1s versus 2s and those type of things. So I think it's going to make for a great spring game. And then just from a staff standpoint, Albert Boone, who's been our director of football operations and done a great job, he found out today that he's been promoted to Associate Athletic Director of Football Operations, and really just kind of a new title for him. With my dad, retiring in June, Albert is going to kind of move up. He'll still be doing many of the same roles as head of football operations, but now as a Associate Athletic Director, really being my top chief of staff there. He's done an outstanding job, and it was pretty cool. We'll probably put the video out later sometime this week, but Michael Kelly came down to the field to make that announcement to Albert in front of the team and to see the players' reaction. I mean, it was a great life lesson, too, that I could kind of share with our guys. And many of y'all probably don't know, but Albert actually left a corporate job with AAU in 2016, came here and he volunteered for his first year with Coach Taggart. Truly volunteered for a year, got paid nothing, got a wife and child at home. And then after 1 year volunteering, he ended up getting on full-time, working in recruiting for 2 years. And then in 2018, he moved over as our director of football operations. And I'll never forget, whenever I was at Clemson and this job came open, I was watching Michael Kelly's press conference he did, kind of announcing the change. And he said, our great Albert Boone will be in charge of the team while we're interim coaches. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I really had plans to bring somebody from Clemson to be my director of football ops, and Michael Kelly said, well, you can do that, but I think you need to meet Albert first. And I could tell being around Albert for a couple of days, I could tell he was the right guy. He's done an outstanding job, and it's really somebody that's just kind of behind the scenes. I know all the coaches kind of are the ones that get up and get more of the attention, but he really does a lot of things for our players and for our staff to make our football program move at the efficient pace that we are right now. So really excited about Albert for that next step there. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
So let me ask you about your four-string defensive front. Obviously, with two new coordinators, you guys are in an interesting position in installing playbooks. Did you get a chance to install some of that in meetings over these winter workouts, and how much do you want to have installed by the end of spring?
Yeah, well, I think, again, the advantage of having both of our coordinators here in January is they've been able to have these meetings, but I think spring is the one time that you can really slow down and make sure the guys understand it. Defensively, there'll be a lot of changes, just completely different scheme, a lot of different terminology, and going to a predominantly four-down front with predominantly two linebackers and five DBs. That will be a little bit different from maybe what we did defensively, but they're off to a good start. Offensively, will be very similar to what we've done, and I'll talk a little bit more about Coach Trickett here in a minute, but you know, there'll be a lot more carryover offensively and being able to keep a lot of our verbiage and language that we've used there. But I think at the end of the day, your goal is not to get the entire playbook in spring. It's really to make sure the guys can understand the foundation of it, what to do, but also the why we do it and how we do it. And if you can't slow down in the spring to teach it the right way, then you're never going to have time to do it in the fall when you're getting ready for games. So I don't know if there's some magic percentage, but if I was just to guess, I would probably say, you know, somewhere between 65–70% of the offense and defense will probably have a chance to be installed throughout spring practice.
Chuck, you mentioned the new players have been very welcoming by the return.
Yeah.
How have the new players overall been acclimating themselves? You
Yeah.
said they're making the effort. You alluded to a couple of guys doing very well.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, anytime there's transition, I mean, these guys, and a lot of these guys being transfers that have been different places. I think one advantage when you're bringing an older guy in that's a transfer, that they've already been somewhere and they understand the time management and discipline, accountability, a lot of those things that you really kind of have to teach a lot of the freshmen. So I think they came in a little bit ahead there. And then the other thing that's important is in the recruiting process. I mean, whenever we make a decision that we're offering and bringing somebody on our team, I have to ultimately make the decision, how are they going to fit with our current players and our current team? Because our current players are counting on me that I'm going to be adding guys that are part of the solution and not adding guys that become part of the problem, right? So part of that you filter on the way in. But I would say it's on both sides, our returning players accepting those guys, and then those guys coming in and really getting in line and showing the proper respect to our current players and really just kind of becoming one. It's probably surpassed my maybe expectation coming in. Of course, I'm coming from a place where we didn't have any of this, so it was all kind of new. Last year we had a few guys come in and I saw it, but this year there was a lot of guys coming in, and you know, to be able to see guys like Greer and Boyles and DJ, James Gordon, you know, hanging out together away from here, like that's a really good sign to me. And seeing guys like Choffer Brown, a Joe, spending time with our wideouts and quarterbacks already off the field, that's another good sign.
Coach, for the first time in 3 years, you're having a full and complete off-season. How important is that weight room, spring practice? You don't make an excuse, but
no, yeah, there's no doubt. And just kind of like I was talking about with Coach Artis being here, having the whole off season. I mean, we can all say what we want to say about 2020. You know, this really, for me, it feels like I'm going into my second year. And I don't really mean that just from an expectations. I know what the expectations are and what we're working towards. I mean that just from kind of how everything's working and seeing the progress in our players and our team. And again, we're in no way, shape, or form are we where we want to be and where we're going to be, but the process is in place, and it's the guys have bought in, and just kind of as I walk around during those mats, I mean, I'm seeing guys working, and, you know, David Lane, who's our team chaplain, who's been around since the beginning of the program. I mean, he came up to me today in the middle of our workouts, and he's like, you know, this is the first time in a long time that I've seen this type of work ethic and leadership and, you know, just a little bit more maturity, I think. So it feels like we're kind of going into that second year and really making some good progress. But, you know, that's just through 7 weeks. Everybody's undefeated this time of year, so everybody's excited.
Jeff, as far as tangible goals, do you feel like bowl eligibility is a prerequisite for year 3?
Right. Yeah, that's you know, I saw somebody put out there on Twitter, they were really ambitious. Had us winning the conference and all that, so I give him credit for jumping out there. You know, I wouldn't put any limits on this team. I wouldn't put a limit on what this team can do. Again, every year's a new year. One thing that I shared with our players in the first team meeting that we had back in January is that look at the conference champs in 3 of the 5 Power 5 teams this past year, right? Michigan won the conference this year in the Big Ten. I believe they won 2 games the year before, right? You look at Baylor, they won the Big 12 this past year. I believe they came off a season where they won 2 games the year before. And then Utah won the Pac-12, and they won 3 games the year before. You look at Michigan State, had an outstanding year this year, and I believe they won 2 games the year before. And really what the message to our players was, you know what, those teams, right, they made a decision in January, February, March, April, right, that it was going to be different. They didn't all of a sudden make that decision come September, October, November. They made, and it wasn't the coaches that made the decision. All those places had the same coach in place, and it probably was very similar messages, but the leadership of those teams really kind of took on the ownership of the off-season workouts. And so that's what I told our guys, that, hey, you guys have to make the decision. And at some point, South Florida's going to win a conference championship. I have no doubt about that. You know, the question I asked our guys, is it going to be your team? You know, that's the question. We got a long way to go and all that stuff. But everything, man, don't take any limits on what we can do. But you're going to have to earn everything. But there's no doubt that, going to a bowl would be a very strong, goal for us this year and showing that next level of progress, as we continue to move forward.
You're obviously dealing with 2 new coordinators on both ends. Do their philosophies line up with your philosophies
Yeah.
offensively and defensively? And as well as, what are some things that you haven't seen before that you're excited for them to implement?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think, I think also I'm getting to hire two coordinators after I've been a head coach for 2 years, right? And just like we talk about, there's a price to be paid for experience, right? We talk about, Timmy was fun to watch last year. There's a lot of good moments, and there's some tough moments too, right? And that's just part of that experience that a young player goes through. It's no different for a first-time head coach. I learned a lot over my first 2 years as a head coach. And one thing that I learned is looking at our league and kind of getting to know the teams in our league and the personnel in our league, getting to kind of know our personnel and our strengths and weaknesses. I think it allowed me to make a very informed decision on exactly what I was looking for in our new coordinators defensively and offensively. So there's no question that was a big part of those decisions, but I felt like I was a lot more prepared for that after going through that for the first 2 years. And then as far as things that you talk about, like, seeing some differences, I kind of mentioned some of that just with the leadership that I've seen. And then I would say the extra that I've seen. I've seen our guys coming out on the weekends. I may come up to the office to grab something on a Saturday morning, and I look out there, and we've got 35 guys out there doing pass scale or something like that. Just all the extra stuff outside. Again, NCAA, we're limited to 8 hours, in a week. That's not a lot of time. It's about 2 hours, 4 days a week. And so the best teams, the leadership gets together and they coordinate throwing and workouts and do stuff on their own. And I've seen more of that. But, just overall, it feels like a more mature team, just in the intensity mindset when it's time to work. These guys are locked in, focused. I don't see as many guys, I see very few guys looking for a way out, where maybe my first year, it was very easy with COVID. If you had anything that didn't feel quite right, go stand over there and you don't have to do anything the rest of the day, right? And so when you're kind of taking over a new team, there's a lot of people stepping over there wanting to do that, and you can't go over there and challenge them on it because of COVID and everything that's going on. So that's been a process for us over 2 years. I see very, very few, if any, guys trying to find a way out. I see guys pushing through, and the way you finish in the fall, in games in the fall, is being able to finish each and every day in the off season in each and every drill. And that's kind of what those mat drills are really all about. And so I think our finish and just overall mindset has been improved.
Coach, when you look at your out-of-conference schedule, you're not hiding from anybody. It's ambitious, to say the least, right?
Yeah, there's no doubt. You can definitely look over the next few years. We're out there. It's fun to recruit to, and then the closer they get, it gets real fast. But I've said this before. Whenever you're not just building a team for one season or one game. You're trying to, our goal is to build a program that can have sustainable success over a long period of time. And in order to do that, you can't run from games or just try to get a bunch of layups out there. You got to be able to take on, challenges and see how you do. I'm excited. Our first game is against BYU. And I saw what we were able to do in the second half of that game last year. And I want to see the progress from that team last year to where we are this year in the opener. That's what I'm excited. There's a lot of work to be done before we get ready to do that. But, there's no doubt. Our kids are excited about our schedule. I think the combination of our conference that has some really challenging and, fun games in it to go with our non-conference schedule this year is definitely going to be a great challenge, but one we're looking forward to.
When you take the field next week, you're going to be doing so in the shadows of a facility that's coming up. I know how much you're looking forward to
Yeah.
it.
So here was the best part of my day. You kind of each day you go through something, and I knew I was doing this press conference when I heard it. I said, I'm going to bring that up. So we're out there doing our warm-up like we normally do, and the guys get out there and they kind of do their dynamic warm-up. And the best thing I heard all day is when Coach AJ said they're getting ready to do karaoke, and he said, all right, face the indoor. And everybody turned and faced the indoor to, kind of tell them which way they're doing the karaoke. Like, never before have I ever heard them say, hey, we're facing the indoor, let's go, right over here. I mean, it is going up very quickly. It's making me a little nervous how fast it's going up. I want to make sure they're doing everything right. But it looks great. I mean, it is, and man, just the blessing of having a new facility being built. On top of that, my office is directly looking at the facility. So all the players, they come up throughout the day and just want to walk in the office to be able to kind of see it from the top picture. But literally, and they are doing extra as well. I don't know if we're paying them overtime or what, but over here on Saturdays, they're working. They're working 7 days a week and are doing an awesome job. And the fun part for me, and again, I remember this, 10 years ago, when Clemson was building their indoor, and hearing Coach Sweeney during spring ball, at the after practice talk, being able to look over there at the indoor as it's kind of being built and being able to kind of draw an analogy to as you're building your team for that year and the foundation and all these things. And that's exactly where in fact, I texted Coach Sweeney today. I was jogging around campus and I took a picture of the indoor and text that to him. And he said, game changer. And I said, that's right. Because really for us, that's what at Clemson, that was the big game changer. When we got the indoor, practice and all the events we were able to do there, the camps, recruiting, and everything else came after that. So, yes, that's awesome. We're excited. Hoping to be able to get in there by late summer, early August. But there's a full team out there working. They're doing an awesome job.
Nobody's asked about the quarterback, the quarterback situation, let's call it that.
Yeah.
Open competition with Marsh coming back and
Right.
Brown coming in and Smith coming in.
Yeah. So, one thing also I want to say, Jordan Smith is moving back to quarterback. We asked him to move to safety and try that out last year, and he did. Unfortunately, he had a shoulder injury. He had surgery. He's coming back from that. He's going to be limited a little bit this spring, so he's not going to be able to jump in there and get all the complete reps and all that this spring. But he is moving back to quarterback there. So I think whenever Gunnar Smith gets here in the summer, that'll give us 5 scholarship quarterbacks. But no, it's going really well. I think Timmy's been doing a good job in the offseason. Trey, excited to have him come back and join us. And, I don't really, my typical policy on the portal is when you get in the portal, it's a one-way road. But really kind of looking at our situation, Timmy was our only returning quarterback on scholarship on the team. And I just felt like it was the best for our team to give him the opportunity to come back for at least another year and kind of see how that goes with the competition. So excited to have see him this spring, continue to develop. And then Byron Brown has been outstanding. I mean, he really has. If you ask any of our players about the newcomers, Byron really has kind of risen to the top. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch those guys develop. Coach Trickett, has a great background as a quarterback teacher and developer with the places that he's been, and he's done a really good job with that group so far, and it's going to be fun watching those guys compete.
So much of football is, you talk about your returning starters and the experience. Now you're holding a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah.
And I know you want competitions.
Right.
How do you balance that with the obvious experience that you do have of guys? You're just trying to make sure there's no complacency.
Yeah, but I mean, we're not. I think everybody kind of knows. You could probably figure out part of it, 50% of what it's probably going to look like just from some of these guys. We are fortunate at some positions like offensive line to have guys, multiple year starters coming back, and those guys are going to have to earn it. But what we know about them, they probably will earn it, right? And so it's not a message that what you've done in the past doesn't matter. We're not trying to discount what our guys have done. It's really just kind of a mindset for them. For them to be their best, they need to be hungry, like they've got to go prove each and every day that they're the best person for that job. That's really the mentality that we're trying to get those guys to have, and they have. They've done a good job with that. But, yeah, there's no doubt. Here's what I know. It works itself out, right? It always does. And that's the fun thing about spring ball is you're practicing 15 times, counting the spring game. It's 14 plus the spring game's number 15. And you're doing it every other day. So you got a lot of time to really go watch every part of practice as a staff and critique and grade, and it all just kind of develops over time. And then, the next thing is, coming out of spring, it's going to be the same thing, what you do in the summer and do in fall camp. I don't think that, I think one of our jobs as coaches now with the portal and with everything going on, it's RDR, right? It's recruit. We got to do a great job recruiting. The D is for develop. We got to do a great job once they get here, like these 21 new guys just got here. We got to do a great job developing them and all of our returners. And the last R is retain, right? You better find out a way that the teams that do the best here in this new era of college football are the ones that recruit well, develop well, and then retain their players. If you recruit good players and you develop them well, but you don't retain them, then this is an endless loop. You never get on top of it. So I'm not sure if it's very advantageous for anybody to put out a nice firm depth chart coming out of spring for everybody else and their family to go look at the depth chart and 40 guys decide they want to leave. So I'm kind of in the mode that we're going to have a lot of competition all the way up, and that really feeds into the overall culture that, every day is a part of that competition that you got to go. And those guys have to feel that sense of urgency each and every day. And then once the season starts, it's week by week kind of as you go. But the spring is fun because, we have that spring game, it's going to be 22 or 40, 44 starters and 44 guys being second team for that spring game. So everybody gets an opportunity really to play and use their experience and have some gains along the way.
All right. You to Travis Trickett.
Okay, all right, good. That's a good lead in. I'm going to bring in right on clue. I was going to give you that little signal right there. All right. So here's what I'd say. First of all, really, thankful, for Charlie Weiss Jr. He did a really good job, and a lot of things we're working through, and he's going to do an outstanding job kind of in the next chapter for him. But for me, whenever I knew that we had an opening, a couple things that was important. Number one, I wanted to be sure to bring in someone that maybe had the same beliefs in the offensive system and how we do things on offense, and maybe even someone that had a little bit of experience in our offensive scheme and system. And then also another thing I was looking for was someone that has a reputation as a great quarterback teacher and quarterback developer, because I feel like we have some very talented quarterbacks that have a lot of potential that if they're developed well over the next few years, it's going to be really good for our team. And, that led me to Coach Trickett. I've known of Coach Trickett for a while. I haven't had really a personal relationship. I think I bumped into him one time at a coach's clinic, one time. But one of my good friends is a good friend with Coach Trickett, and so I've kind of kept up with him through that. We do have a lot in common. We both grew up as a college coach's son, as a coach's kid. His dad, Rick Trickett, been a very successful offensive line coach for many years. And then the other thing we have in common is we both left our alma mater to come here to South Florida. And, he went to West Virginia, has a lot of ties there. And, but I think his experience, if you go back and look at his resume, he was the offensive coordinator in an early age at Samford, and was running a very similar offense and system to what we do here. And then after that, he went to FAU and was calling the offense there, and then at Georgia State there for their first 2 years calling the offense. So he has 7 years of experience of calling plays in a very similar system and scheme, and it's going to allow us to really, I feel like offensively, I feel like we've been making progress and just had some young guys out there and developing. Defensively, I felt like we needed to make a pretty strong change. But offensively, I didn't want to throw away all the work that we had put in with that offense as far as our scheme and system. So we're going to be able to keep a lot of the terminology the same. Obviously, he's going to have the ability to add his flavor to it, and there'll be some things that he believes in that we'll do that'll be maybe a little bit different. But overall, I'm expecting to see a better version of what we've done. And then on top of all of that, the other thing, as I started making calls and doing some research on him, he has an outstanding reputation as a recruiter, and specifically in the Miami area. If you talk to the coaches down there in Broward and Dade County, they all know Coach Travis Trickett. They've got a long relationship with him, a trust with him. I got to spend the day with him down there in January, and he's got the secret handshake. They let him in the back door over there. So I think when I look back over our short history here at South Florida, when we've recruited well down in that Miami area, that's been some of our better teams. And so that was one thing I felt like we were missing a little bit. So to be able to do that with the right guy as your offensive coordinator was really just kind of the cherry on top. So I'm going to bring up Coach Trickett, let him say a few words. Last thing that I would say is we're excited tonight. We have a high school coaches clinic going on tonight at 6 o'clock, and we've got about 175 high school coaches, I think 45 head coaches. Everybody's from Florida, majority of them are from this Bay Area here, so excited to be able to have those high school coaches come back, and hopefully we'll have them coming out to spring practice as well. So I'll hand it over to Coach Trickett.
How's everybody doing? Good? Good. So first off, starting this thing off, extremely excited to be here. This is a program, University of South Florida, that I'm very familiar with from just coming up as a coach's kid and where I went to school. That's when USF had made that jump a few years before, and then they came into the Big East, and so I got to see them when Grothy was out there, and you had, all those guys, Mari Daniels, all those kids, all those guys playing, and Coach Levitt did a great job with this program. So kind of seeing it from the past, and where I was at, we knew every time you played South Florida, you were in for a dogfight. You had guys that played hard, played with an edge. They're very proud to be South Florida Bulls. So extremely thankful for Coach Scott giving me this opportunity. And, I was extremely happy where I was at, alma mater, just had a bowl game. And day after the bowl game, got a phone call and said that there might be an opportunity. And so, and again, knew of Coach Scott, didn't really know him, but here's what I did know. I knew that from the football on this field aspect, what he's been able to produce as a position coach, then as a coordinator, was at an extremely high level of production. And somebody that I always watched. Like, I would always take time to watch different teams. And it was all in the same family of offense that we had ran. And Clemson was one of those teams. And his players that had made plays, and then when he got transitioned to the coordinator, and obviously from a schematic standpoint, very familiar, stole a lot of stuff, to be honest with you, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So knew of him from that aspect. But the other thing, too, after really trying to get to know him in a short amount of time and his family, and then we were kind of in the same circle, but we didn't really connect the dots just yet. This family of offense they're all related, but there's cousins, and every cousin is a little different, right? And so when I got to know Coach Scott, there was this one thing I do know, like, not only from the on-field production was it something I had admired, but how he is off the field as a coach, as a mentor to his players, how he runs a program. I wasn't going to leave where I was at to go to a situation that wasn't going to mirror or be the same or better than where I was at. And if there's any pillar in college football, in my opinion, about how a program can be run the right way in today's world on both sides, both on the field and off the field, that's Clemson. And what Coach Scott's done here, the environment, the locker room, when I came to the first team meeting, I already knew I made the right decision, but when I came first team meeting, I saw the coaches interact with the players, the genuine excitement and the relationship aspect, because it's all about relationships nowadays. To be a part of that and to know that that's the environment I want to be in, both on the field and off the field, it was a home run, no-brainer opportunity for me in that aspect, not only professionally, but also just from the quality of life standpoint, if that makes sense. But that all goes back to the leadership that he has, that he produces for our program, and all the way to the top with Michael Kelly, same all, and from that alignment too was really big for me. So extremely grateful and excited to be here for that, but then also be able to come in here and like I said, I kind of alluded to as the family of offense. It's I was at Sanford University, and I was GAing at Florida State, and there's another GA at Auburn University that had just won the national championship named Rhett Lashley. And we both got hired at Sanford at the same time. He was a GA and I was GA. We got hired by Coach Pat Sullivan, one of the greatest human beings of all time. And Rhett went from GA to coordinator, and I came from GA to position coach, and I worked with Rhett there. And there's only a couple coaches that ran that offense. That's why Rhett got that opportunity from GA to be a coordinator at FCS. And it was the Gus Malzahn offense, and then Coach had been part of with Chad Morris at Clemson. Those were the two offenses, like really the only two people running that family of offense. Then after a year, Rhett had an opportunity to leave, and I got to be the coordinator at Sanford and took off from there. So literally every week I'd be sitting there watching two teams. I really went to three teams. I'd watch Clemson, I'd watch Auburn, then I would watch Arkansas State, because that's where Coach Malzahn went to at that point in time. So it's just funny how things work, and when the opportunity came up to kind of get back to my roots and my core, same belief system, because it's all the foundation of what you try to achieve. And that's what I'm excited to be back part of and be able to be in a room with, first off, a great staff. That's first thing, who you're working with. We got a phenomenal staff of assistant coaches. I knew two of them. Other two I'd heard of, did not know. I've got to know they've been phenomenal, and our players have been great. Like, I got them before I said yes. I watched every game, watched a bunch of cut-ups, and just wanted to see where we're at and how much growth potential do we have. So after taking all that into consideration, and my wife, as soon as I got done watching film, then I came down, and I talked with Coach Scott. I got on the phone with her, and she's like, "We're moving, right?" And I was like, "Yep, we're moving, babe." So, but hopefully moving for the last time in a long time. And it's y'all, right? And it's for sure going to be the last time in a long time, because right now this housing market down here is a whole nother level, if y'all don't already know. So anyways, but like I said, excited to be here, excited to get going, and again, turn it over for any questions.
What do you believe in offensively?
Offensively, I believe in the one thing, the beauty about this offense, again, is everyone talks about tempo, yes. I think nowadays we want to play fast, and by playing fast, it's not just like speed of when the ball's snapped. It's your kids knowing what to do and how to do it, and them playing fast, right? And so that is a big aspect of what we do. The other thing is, I do believe nowadays there's a little bit of a changing of the tempo is almost an advantage too. So being able to go at a certain tempo, then increase then maybe stop real quick and kind of change, keep them off balance. Because defense coordinators now, back in the day, back when I was in college, we were with Coach Rodriguez, and it was spot the ball, spot the ball, spot the ball, and it was different then. Now everyone does it, right? So that's been a little bit of a change over the last few years, I believe. But the one thing that I do 100% believe in is it's Jimmys and Joes, it's not X's and O's. So we talk about allowing your players to play fast, but also get your players the ball. In what aspects? So you identify what they do best, how they do it, and then highlight that. What ways can we get this guy a touch? What way, if this guy's really good at going this way, what can we do to highlight that in a matchup that is in our favor, schematically and both personnel-wise? So I really believe in that aspect with the core of what we do. So again, without getting into specifics, because, you know, it's a competitive advantage right now that no one really knows what we're going to do. So, but from a belief standpoint, I believe in, again, identifying what your players do best, highlight that, especially whatever is a weakness of what they do on that other side of the ball. But whoever your best players are, do what they do best. Give them the ball in space if they're space players. If they're road graders, get them downhill. If they're guys that are fast on the perimeter, get them on the perimeter. And just let your players play. That's the big thing. It sounds simple, but if you can equip your kids to be able to go out there and know what to do, have a plan, and not think, then that's when they're their best selves. Because there's so many kids nowadays that are 4 stars and 5 stars where they go to a place and they don't play or play well. Well, why is that? There's a number of reasons. Maybe it was a misevaluation, but a lot of times they're thinking. So you got to find and identify what kids can. Some kids can handle a lot, some kids can't. But if we got a kid that can be, hey, I don't know if he can do this, but I know he can do that, well, let's take advantage of that aspect, if that makes sense.
Travis, you've watched film and cut-ups, and I presume when you watched, you probably said, man, these guys are close. What's the one thing that's kept them from getting over the hump from what you've seen?
Well, I think the coach alluded to it. You had a lot of really young players. When you start a true freshman quarterback, that's tough sledding, you know. And that's what. So when I watched, I'm like, okay, where are we at, and can we get somewhere without changing the pieces? Because everybody, the quick thing is to say, oh, well, we just got to get a new guy here, or we got to get a new guy there. Well, that's not how it works. This ain't the NFL where you just cut and replace and sign. So even though nowadays it's getting more and more like it with this portal and all that kind of stuff. But that being said, I'm watching, I'm like, oh man, well, it's just a little thing here, or it's just a little thing there. Man, if he can just do this. And so I started making notes. I did a quarterback evaluation on both quarterbacks. I watched a point of attack cut up on each of them. There's some systems out there, PFF, that allows you to do those kind of things. And then I watched all the stars PFF, point of attack tapes. And then I watched the games, right? And just making notes from a schematic standpoint. Okay, yeah, that's okay. I can see there's the family of all. There it is, right there. Saw that, but then also look from like our schematic standpoint, because everybody, like, there's some concepts that everybody runs, like from a run game standpoint, from a pass game standpoint. Well, what's the difference between Team A and Team B? They both play Team C, but Team A does it better than Team B. Well, it's how you do it, and I'm a firm believer in how you do anything is how you do everything. And so to answer your question in a roundabout way is attention to detail. That's going to be this big thing about spring. You know, we got 3 goals on offense. One is protect the ball. One is play with perfect effort. And one is have elite ATD, which is attention to detail. Those 3 things have nothing to do with talent. Not a darn thing. So whoever we have that steps out there on the field, at left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle, quarterback, any position, if they do those 3 things, we can maximize who they are as a player. Then it's up to us schematically to put them in position to be successful. So to me, it's, all right, if we're running a certain play, what's the detail in that play that did get executed that made it work? Highlight that, continue it. And then what's the detail in that play that maybe, man, that kept it from going? And then are there certain details that show up over and over again? Okay, let's again, all right, so if it's this, maybe it's a combo here, or maybe it's a release here, or whatever it may be. Then you put a plan in place. Okay, that's the issue. How do we fix it? Okay, how do we drill it? How do we implement it? And then how we stay on it, so then you get your kids better. So to me, that's what I'm most excited about, is really getting our team and our players detail-oriented. Our coaches are there. They've been phenomenal. Our players have been great in these short amount of time. The meetings are very small and quick, but in that time, they're very, very eager. Coach hit it on the head, nail on the head. Our team is very, very eager. They want to do good. and again, some places you go and different kids nowadays, they think they're this, they're that, and it's hard to coach them sometimes because their cup's already full. Like, they don't want to get that. You pour into it, and they're like, no, I got all the answers, coach, I'm good. Our guys have been phenomenal from top to bottom, every position. So that's what I'm really excited about this spring, is just really being process-oriented, detail-oriented, and throw them out there and see what they can do.
When you were deciding to come here, how much of a factor was it that administration, athletic director, they're all on board with a team that really hasn't been successful for 2 years?
Absolutely huge. That's everything. Because, like, in our profession nowadays, it's like patience does not exist a lot of times. It doesn't. I mean, Frank Beamer nowadays, from when he was at Virginia Tech, I don't know if he would have made it past year 2 or 3. It took him, I think, year 4 or 5 when they started having success, and then they hit, right? And so, and this is the coach's kid coming out of me, because y'all know, as a coach's kid, you're like, you know, we were at Auburn, and they let go of Terry in 1998 after game 5 or 6. We were 47-17-1. That's the first thing I said. Like, we're 47-17-1. They're letting them go. Like, what are we talking about? And that's just, and again, that being said, that you don't know as a kid, you know what I mean? As a child, you just kind of say, as a coach's kid, you're like, well, why? That doesn't make any sense. But when you come to a situation and you see the alignment, you know, I knew I was at a place where the alignment was 100%. And I've been fortunate enough the last couple stops to be at those spots, and you see where those programs, when they have that, the success that can have. And it may not be immediate, but the foundational success that's long-term and sustaining. So that was the number one thing, to be honest with you, because I knew of Coach Scott, knew he was a quality man, a quality coach, knew of his family, pedigree, everything was there. South Florida had my full respect from the jump, from a recruiting standpoint, because that was the only interaction I dealt with, but also from a football standpoint. But then when I got down here and I met, you know, Michael Kelly, and met, you know, Coach Scott, and then I really met everybody in the facility, and not only like just talking about it, but doing it, the facility, you know, making sure coach is secure, and we can go in those homes and tell these kids, like, hey, this is it. And so that was everything for me, absolutely everything. So that's a great question, but and it's felt in the program. The kids feel that now. Nowadays, I mean, with social media, that's real, and so the buy-in, that's why the vibe around this building and that locker room and upstairs is really, really good right now.
Obviously, from a wins and losses, this doesn't look like the most desirable position, but when you take a deeper look, especially what you've got offensively and the weapons that are returning, this is probably one of the most desirable jobs in college football, with your entire offensive line returning, your quarterback returning, most of your skill positions returning, just as you kind of studied and looked at things from a personnel standpoint. Just, you know, how giddy were you when you realized what you had to work with?
Well, the first thing you look for is I remember one job I took, I walked out there for spring practice and got the guys on the team. There was a bunch of guys standing on the sideline that were like this tall, this big, that I'm like, what's going on, dude? I mean, they're like, oh yeah, I just graduated. Like, they didn't look anything like that was out there on the field. But I tell you this is really exciting. That's also the thing where that's the first thing I did when I got here is I tried to meet one-on-one with as many players offensively as I could. And and Coach Scott, it builds a relationship-based program, right? And because nowadays that's how you got to coach. You got to be relationship-based. That doesn't mean being soft. That means they got to know you for you, not just coach, but as the man, as the family man, as the husband, as the father. And that's the culture that he's already put in place. So I've made sure, like, these first few days, I'm sitting down, I'm meeting with as many running backs, tight ends, receivers, offensive linemen, quarterbacks that I can. Took the quarterbacks out for breakfast for an occasional meal the other day. Going to do another dinner before spring ball or sometime during spring ball. I think you need to spend time, and it's expensive. You know, it's really expensive as far as like taking away from your family. But they got to know how much you care before they care how much you know. You know what I mean? That's a big piece, I do believe, in what you do. And that takes time, it takes effort. Like right now, our offensive coaches are meeting with all of our players one-on-one, going through spring goals, the outlook, because Coach Scott talked about it, competition's real. And so we want them to have a sense of hope, a sense of like getting excited about being developed and being coached. And the good thing is we got a lot of guys come back. And that could also be a double-edged sword because then there can only be so many reps because you may be a little thin at this position, a little thin at that position. So you can't do maybe 2-spot this or 2-spot that. But it's all about as long as they know they're getting better and getting developed. That's the key thing. But I'm excited watching the tape. You see guys that jump off tape that you get really excited about. And then also the guys that you know maybe you recruiting out of high school or guys that you watched they had flash here and flash there is, okay, why did they flash and can they continue to flash? Can we build on that? So very desirable in that aspect. And there's work to be done. Don't get me wrong now. It ain't like, oh, it's like it wasn't enough, right? And so we got to make sure we got to do what we can to make it enough and develop that aspect.
What do you think you can bring?
Overall- Sorry, just wanted to follow up. What's been the overall response that you've gotten from the guys that you got?
Awesome. They've been great. They've been so willing to they just want to get better. I do think a lot of that has to, they got to know that you want to get better. But and that's the thing, you can't just come in there and start yelling out. That does not work today. And I talk to my dad all the time about that because if y'all know anything about my father, he is a yeller. And, but like I told, and he agrees, he's at an age now where he understands it, but you've got to really, to push kids, they got to know that you got their back. And so the only way and again, now that means if they're doing something not the standard, you getting them there is actually for them. So being well-defined with them, spending time with them, that's been really big. But that's why their reception has been so good because they want to be better. They know so far at this point in time that I care about them. But that's more time has to be spent because I've only been here for about 2 months, right? So, but I think a lot of that has to do with the culture too. The culture's been set in place. They understand it, that Coach Scott's not going to bring anybody in here that's not to that mentality or standard.
What do you think you can bring to the development of quarterbacks? Coach mentioned that's one of your fortes. What can you do to get these guys further along?
Yeah, the number one thing is just being consistent. Coach Weiss, who's here, is a great coach, great young coach, and has a track record too of his short time, being a coordinator, has been very successful. So he did a great job with them as well. Number one thing I can just say bring to the table is just trying to understand, hey, simplify. If we talk about players playing fast, all right, well, the quarterback position, some players have to make decisions. All right, they know what route they have to run. Now it's just how do I run it based on what I'm getting? Or maybe it's a block where I know I have to take my inside zone steps, but it depends on if I got 3 technique here or 5 technique here or where the linebacker's at. Quarterback's got to say, I've got to make decisions, but it's dependent on a lot of different aspects. There's a lot more decisions that probably have to be made. So being very fortunate enough to my upbringing, being around some coaches that have been very complex offensively, and then some other coaches that have been very honed in. I won't say simple because that's not the correct term, but more very, very, very efficient with what they teach. And then finding that happy medium and then learning a kid, finding out how he learns, how much he can handle to let him be successful. And then really just getting to know them and then shave it down so where if they can see a little, they see a lot. So whatever that is, on this play, they just need to focus on this thing to that, then that play can go at a high level. You follow me? So it's really just honing them in, detailing them up, and then really hopefully making their options where they know, I'm going here and being decisive. So making more decisive and making sure as a coach I'm putting them in that position schematically and also decision-making wise. So then they can go out there and be the best. And then if they can handle a little bit more, they can handle this and that, then we'll give them more. But right now, start like Coach Scott said, that basic level, that foundational level, and then build off of it.
Coach, you mentioned Pat Sullivan earlier. In your career, in getting to this point, can you cite a couple of individuals who have really helped you an awful lot? Had a great influence on you, perhaps?
Yeah, give me an emotional on him. Coach Sullivan was huge. He passed away a couple years ago, but Coach Sullivan for sure. Jimbo Fisher was big. He's been like family. My dad coached with him at Auburn, and so known him since 3rd grade, right? And so got to go GA for him and be his GA for 3 years was awesome. Because I think as a quarterback mind and offensive mind, he is. If you've ever met Jimbo, he's special when it comes to those things. So being able to be under him for 3 years as a GA was big. I got to coach under Coach Saban at Alabama for a year, which was an amazing experience. And then really every spot I've been at has been really, really, you pull something from. Even if it was, you know, Coach Sullivan obviously giving me the opportunity, having the faith to give me, to put his, you know, his program in my hands at such a young age. Charlie Partridge believed in me to get my first FBS job at FAU. Sean Elliott came in there and really just, you know, being a first-time head coach and entrusted me to go up there and run his. I mean, every coach, and I'll be honest with you, Neil Brown. I'll say this right now, like Neil Brown has shown me kind of like what it was for probably some coaches that go to Clemson and saw how Coach Sweeney does things. You know, Coach Scott always talked about how it was for, I think, Coach Venables and some other coaches. You know, that's what Coach Brown was for me. Coach Brown showed me, you know, how to work with people, you know, how you can have a standard of, hey, it's a 4th and 1 mentality every day, but there's a right way to do it. You know, a man that, you know, we had a father-daughter dance in the facility. We had a Father Sunday. The relationship aspect with the players, making sure about spending time with them. He has had a huge impact on how I do day-to-day operations now. So, again, as a coach's kid, like one thing Dad always told me, like you know, if you think you know it all, then you just need to get out coaching because you don't. You're always trying to learn. So I pulled something from just about everybody.
You a sideline guy or a box guy?
Box guy. Box guy. I've been on, first time I was on the sideline, honestly, was outside of GA, but full-time coaching was at West Virginia. And there were some really cool advantages on that, but box, just think you can see it better.
Has play calling evolved? Have you changed the way you view play calling? Or is there a way to categorize
Honestly,
how
yes.
you want to call a game?
Honestly, yes, because here, I think it's not only play calling, but offensively. Back in the day, because you are what you know, like when you're around really smart people tend to try to, there's always a better play, or there's always this. And then really, I think the way I've kind of gone, like, is just like, all right, there's nothing wrong with the play, something wrong with the execution. And so that's real, my mentality has changed a lot, is really, okay, if we all believe this is a good play versus this, why didn't it go? Well, they did this, so we should have come back with this. Correct, but could we have taught this better? Could he have done this better? Yes, if we did this, we could have. You follow me? So to me, I think it's, you know, being under that analytical of sometimes like more is not always better at all. And that's the foundation of this offense. You know what I mean? And that's where I think, you know, calling it for 7 years and going through those ups and downs, thank goodness more ups than downs. That's where, to me, that my philosophy's changed a lot. Really just kind of, after every time after every practice we'll watch the film, but then we'll sit down and review, okay, inside zone, what do we think of it today? All right, how do we do going to the right? How are our backside combos here? How is this? Or out, whatever the play may be, whatever concept it is. And then just really reviewing it, okay, if it's not showing up on tape, are we doing something wrong? What are we doing? So I think that would be it. Play calling wise though, and then also just situationally, I think there's a lot of analytics now, but staying out of negative plays, you know, that's the number one thing, staying on track.
You fourth downs differently, going for it, when to not?
As long as coach lets me know if I got 2 downs to go, once we hit that second down, and he says, you got 4 downs here, I'm good.
Yeah.
It's that after 3rd down, go for it. I'm like, okay, all right, here we go, you know. But
So overall, it's like you're not trying to invent something that's never been seen before. You're trying to, you know what you know, and you're trying to get that as good as you can.
correct, because there's no secrets nowadays. I mean, there's no secrets. I mean, everybody gets to watch everybody. There's trends, you know. There's trends like you see a lot more influence of. You see college influence the NFL, but now you're back to a little bit of the NFL influence of college because I mean, you see people do a lot of stuff that McVay's doing with the Rams or Shanahan's doing with the outside zone at the 49ers, and you know, everyone looks to see what people like a few years ago. LSU and Joe Brady, highest scoring offense in college football history. So everybody, what's the secret? But everyone runs, everything's available information-wise nowadays, so it's no secrets. It's just how you do it, at what level, and who's doing it. So.
So you're still using that smash concept then?
Pardon me?
The smash offensive concept that you had, I think we were at Georgia State that you had, or is it going back towards like whenever you were a student assistant at West Virginia with Rasheed Marshall as quarterback?
Oh, I got you. really, like I said, we've got a system, and then we're going to make sure, we're going to find out here in these next 15 practices what I think our kids do best. And so that's going to dictate what roles out there on field. But it's the family-wise, this offense is built to cater to whatever is true to the offense, but can cater to whatever your kids do best. So that's what I'm really excited about seeing is when we get out here and just making sure we get the improvement that we need.
At any level of football, the hardest position to coach is offensive line. 5 halfbacks is 1. You grew up with that in your household every day. How much of an advantage of that is knowing what that offensive line coach has to do?
Oh, yes. You can draw up the greatest plays. Like, I like this route. It's all that 7-on-7 stuff. Like, you see these routes, I'm watching, like, some of these highlights on Twitter. I'm like, that's a sack. I mean, he can't get the ball off, right? That's 5 seconds. Unless we're protecting with 8 people, right? Even then, so you got some one-on-one somewhere. It's number one what the offensive line can do and what the quarterback can do. There's going to, like, anywhere you go, there's going to be pretty good wideouts or wideouts that can do some things. Sometimes there's more special wideouts at other places, same with running backs and whatnot. But what can the offensive line handle? What can the quarterback handle? Those are the 2 guys at the end of the day that make it go, or 2 positions that make it go. So 100%, yeah, I remember my dad growing up listening to him like, gosh dang quarterback, he's 12 yards deep in the pocket. Like, that tackle won't have no edges. So best believe, like, quarterbacks ain't going to be 12 yards deep, right? So, but yes, there's absolutely a fact to that.
Even though you haven't been here for a very long time, who are you excited to see on the O-line get out there and show what they have and what's promised?
Honestly, I mean, it's a coach speak answer, but all of them. I mean, I really am. I'm familiar with a lot of guys through recruiting. Recruited Meach, Cecil, Dono. Obviously didn't get them, right? But I'm glad they're here now, right? And a lot of those guys, you know, Dustin, you know, some guys are going this spring, some guys aren't. And I'm really excited to see these guys behind. Because, again, like, what's really cool is you got a lot of experience coming back, but then fast forward a year from now, they're gone, right? So what's waiting in the wings? How far along are they? So that's really the question this spring, is to make sure those guys get developed and get reps so you kind of get an idea of what we have, who can challenge who, and then what we have waiting in the wings, and then maybe can they give us some snaps during the season to kind of spell those guys so then everyone can stay in that optimal level as the game goes.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all.